Welcome to Books in Sum, your go-to for bite-sized book summaries.
Shameless by Nadia Bolz Weber. This book examines how the church can approach sexuality differently. It argues that it is time to revise the church's approach to sexuality and adopt a view that erases shame and encourages care for everyone's sexual well-being. It also looks at what can happen when people aren't allowed to express their sexuality, what the church has gotten wrong about sexual purity, and the hidden message in the Ten Commandments. The author argues that the church's teachings about sexuality exclude many people and force them to deny integral parts of themselves, which can lead to feelings of inadequacy and shame. The book also looks at the example of a school that rolls out a fancy new uniform, but it is too big for some students and too small for others, forcing them to choose between wearing the uncomfortable uniform or getting in trouble if they don't. The author of this book argues that the church has made sexuality synonymous with shame, and that a new approach to sexuality has the power to heal people from the sexual shame they've experienced in the church. She proposes that the teachings be revised so that they prioritize people instead of causing them harm. She argues that sexuality is a gift from God, and that we should have the freedom to experience sexual desire and pleasure. She uses the example of a brand new, state-of-the-art sports car, which is not allowed to drive, but instead is parked in the garage and watched it gather dust. The author argues that our bodies, like this hypothetical car, are also gifts that we've been told we can't use. The author believes that sexuality is an integral part of human identity, and that suppressing it often has awful results. She shares examples from her congregation, such as a teenager being warned to not even think about sex, a couple being taught that they had to resist any sexual desires until they got married, and a woman being told that her attraction to women was unacceptable. The author believes that people should be able to explore their sexual desires without fear or shame, and that being pure doesn't make people holy, it only separates them from each other. For the author, holiness is about being deeply connected with God and with the people around us. The author argues that Jesus is a great example of holiness, and that the sexual purity movement disconnects people from their natural desires. The concept of purity also divides people, creating a group of outsiders who are seen as less than and a group of insiders who are considered worthy. The author also argues that the church wrongfully justifies the idea of male dominance, and this plays a role in the sexual harassment of women. This belief was reinforced by writings from early Christian leaders, such as Tertullian and Augustine, who believed that when Eve was tempted in the Garden of Eden, she tarnished the image of God. In the era of #MeToo, people are realizing just how often women are sexually harassed by men, and the teachings of the church are at least partially to blame. The author proposes that this belief drives much of the sexual misconduct that women experience, from subjecting women to inappropriate jokes to committing acts of sexual harassment or even sexual abuse. This has its roots in the teachings of the church, which used the Bible to justify male dominance. The author believes that a rethinking of the church's teachings on sexuality should start with the basics, understanding what inclusive ideas of sexuality should look like. The new Christian sexual ethic should be based on consent, mutuality, and a concern for everyone's sexual well-being. This means acknowledging that sexual interactions should always have the enthusiastic consent of everyone involved and should also be enjoyable for all parties. This book discusses the importance of an awareness of how our sexual behavior affects us and those around us, and a willingness to support other people's sexual wellness and growth. It draws from Martin Luther's teachings on the Ten Commandments, which suggests that obeying the commandment "Thou shalt not kill" doesn't just mean people shouldn't commit murder, but also that they should avoid doing anything that might harm or endanger another person's life. It also suggests that people need to openly acknowledge how the church's teachings about sexuality have harmed them, and that being open about what hurts us is a key part of moving on. This is because the things that happen to us, the good, the bad, and the seemingly shameful, all help make us who we are. Even Jesus was unashamed of his crucifixion scars, and openly showed them to his disciples after he was resurrected. The most important details in this book are that everyone should be able to express their sexuality in a healthy way, and that the church should take an approach that embraces sexuality of all kinds. The author also believes that our bodies have to process and grieve what they've been through, and that people should have safe spaces where they can share and process what has happened to them. Actionable advice include paying attention to how sexual images affect you, determining where your personal boundary lies, and deciding how much of it is healthy for you to indulge in.
We hope you found this summary helpful in your listening journey. If you're interested in diving deeper into the topic or getting your hands on the whole book, be sure to check the description below where we've included links to the book and other related products that may be useful to you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated on our latest book summaries, and feel free to leave a comment with any suggestions or requests for books you'd like us to cover. Thanks again for tuning in, and happy listening.